Could have sworn I hit that before, but I guess I didn't. This was before I actually said anything. Um. So, I feel like the proper way to introduce this is the fact that, um, I should have planned this out a little bit better. But this was, yeah, no, made by Ebi-Hime. Actually, the credits are like right here. Written and programmed by Ebi-Hime. Character art, background art, GUI, music, SFX, and the proofreaders. This is written and programmed by the same lovely individual who gave us It Gets So Lonely Here. And considering how much that I really, really, really enjoyed that one, when I saw that they made something for the Toxic Yuri VN Gamejam, I might have been a little bit excited to read it. As far as I'm aware, there are also still like 3 routes. There are still kind of like 3 routes. I'm not sure exactly how the branches will work, but no, all I saw was that Ebi-Hime made another Toxic Yuri game, and that's basically all that all that was needed to get me interested in reading this one. So thankfully, oh, that's really cold. Hang on, I'm trying to get this open first. At least in the YouTube VOD, ow, that's like really cold. I shouldn't have put. No wonder I shouldn't have put something metal in the refrigerator, but whatever. I'm also trying to do this in a way where like it isn't annoying to listen to because of the little thing it has at the top. There it is. Now just to make sure not to spill it. Okay. In a Discord, there is a link that has. In the Discord, there is a link directly to the Toxic Yuri VN Gamejam that was hosted on itch.io, as well as a direct link to the store page for Glassheart. In the YouTube VOD, I will also link them directly down below. The YouTube VOD will also probably have will likely have the content warnings in it. I didn't look directly at them, but the game does come with certain content warnings. I'm not particularly big on them since they can kind of I'm trying to find like a really good way of saying this. To me, I'm not really a fan of content warnings, unless it's something like epilepsy warnings. Like those are obviously like necessary. To me, a big appeal of something that is kind of I don't want to say shocking because that makes it come off as just like shock. Shock. It makes it come off as like the shock value is like the only thing a part of it, but I feel I don't think I've ever had to put this in like words. I don't think it devalues work. I think that content warnings can be valuable to the people that like don't want to engage with art like that, where it's just like, no, I kind of want something to mostly relax with. Like, to me, if something has a content warning, that's more so there for the people who are like, I'm not sure what I'm getting into, and that can give them kind of a bit of a breather or like hesitation. Whenever I see content warning, to me, whenever I see that anything even just has a content warning, that's typically like, oh, this is probably going to be interesting. I don't want to look at that. So I go into it without looking at the content warning. Mostly because I think like the impact of those things coming up is what makes that very interesting to me. But for other people, they probably don't want to engage with certain things when they intend to just relax. So I'm trying to find like a good way of putting it. Essentially, I'm kind of just making it so that like this intro breather type of period, like look at the, actually I can probably just post it like directly in chat. Where is it? Yeah, so I'll give it like, you can open a Steam page. I'm so used to saying that. You can open the itch.io page, read the content warnings. I don't know if it'll come out swinging with it, but if it doesn't seem like something that's kind of like up your alley, then feel free to completely like pass over this. That's also why I'm going to be putting it in the YouTube description down below for the VOD, but it's one of those things where like it's a very I don't know kind of what else to say. It's not like dead. It's I don't want to say like dead dove don't open because I don't know what's in this, but at the same time, this is from something that was submitted for a Toxic Yuri via Gamejam. I don't really know what you expect if you're not exactly on board with it, considering that it was submitted for that and made for that. But that is why the tag for the stream does have 21 plus up, at least for this stream, because given the fact that it was only made like last week, or it was only released like last week, Twitch probably isn't going to have it properly tagged for mature audiences only. So that's the reason why I'm doing that. I'm basically putting as many cautions and warnings as I can directly in front, because I literally have no idea what's going to happen in this. All I know is that I heard Toxic Yuri, it was written by somebody who made something else that I really liked, so that's why I'm jumping in. You are fast asleep. You are drifting through the darkness, a seemingly endless abyss from which there is no escape. The darkness shrouds you from all sides. It lays on your... I was really hoping it would take a lot longer before I run into a word I don't recognize. Supine? It lays on your supine body, thick and heavy like a mantle, pressing down upon your lids until it threatens to dislodge the eyes which lay behind them. You are lost in a deep, dreamless sea, a sailor tossed amongst the towering ocean waves. The darkness is more unforgiving, however... The darkness is more unforgiving, however, than any waves, for it does not undulate. It is there eternally, perpetually, an immovable, unshifting constant. The darkness is your ears. The darkness is in your ears. It stops up your nose. It would fill your mouth too if you dared to open it. It would choke you like so much dirt poured into the gaping hole of an open grave. The darkness drowns you. It buries you. It consumes you. There is nothing but the darkness, leagues and fathoms and feet of it. You were a person once, you know, before you found yourself in this sorry state. You had a name once. Perhaps you had several names, and thoughts of your own. Feelings, too. You had friends, a family, perhaps. You had a life. You might have had many lives. You are one, yet you are many, fragmented. Your past dances behind your eyelids like shards of glass. sharp to the touch, and yet, will you reach out to touch these broken bits and pieces of your past? Do you dare? Oh! That's very interesting. They give you a visual description. Not even the visual description, it's just an image of each one. Kind of the poster girl. I don't know which one I want to pick. Maid nurse scientist. Or at least a doctor? You're the most unassuming, and I have a little bit of a bias for round glasses. So I'm interested. You continue to drift in the darkness. It submerges you like tar, like oil. There's something oddly reassuring about the darkness. Something soothing. But you know you cannot drift forever. There is work which needs to be done. Is to dot. Yeah. I is to dot, and T is to cross. There is a mountain of paperwork awaiting you, and all sorts of charts which need collating, all sorts of reports which need to be written. This work will not sort itself out, and you know full well, even as you drift, that she is not going to do it herself. She has always been slipshod and slovenly, so incredibly careless. She does not call out to you. There is nobody to call out to you, but you are still able to force yourself awake. You have woken yourself for the last 2 years, and you are certain you will continue to do so, no matter what curious avenues your life might take you to. You no longer have any maids to rouse you. You only have her, and the thought of her waking up before you is farcical. She has never once woken you, save for by accident, when she has stayed awake long into the early hours of the morning to study. When she has tripped over a pile of books, the resultant crash has stirred you from your slumber. There is no crash this morning, however, no resonant whispers of pain. There is only the sound of the chirping birds outdoors and an uncomfortable crick in your neck. Did you fall asleep at your desk again? It wouldn't be the first time. You wince. An unpleasant sour taste fills your mouth. And when was the last time you brushed your teeth, and your brow furrows? Though you know your responsibilities well, you still feel weary. Part of you, rather a small part mind, but is still there, would like to sleep just a little while longer, shoring up your strength before she sends you onto any further fetch quests. But you cannot drift forever. She is waiting for you, and she relies on you. She might be a genius, but she is completely hopeless when it comes to everyday affairs. She can cultivate life inside a petri dish, but she does not even know how to dress herself. She will wither away without you, like a rose in the winter. She will suffer and sicken with nobody to brush her hair, to prepare her food, to make her bed, to ensure that she lives. She cannot do anything on her own. This savant sister of yours, this rare and unusual idiot who cannot even scramble an egg without starting a fire. And so you force yourself to wake up. You blink, and when you do, you wince. It is as you thought. You did fall asleep on your desk, amid several scattered documents, charts and graphs, and all manner of miscellanea you can't even begin to name right now. There is an uncomfortable crick in your neck and in your back, and a sour taste persists in your mouth. The taste is unpleasant, almost acrid, and you wince. You can't quite place it, not for a few moments. But a glance to your right, at the cacophony of cups placed amidst the sea of documents, soon clears that up. You were drinking coffee last night in an attempt to keep your eyes open, endless cups of it. Well, that explains that mystery. It is little wonder that inside your mouth tastes like a charnel house, or that your head hurts so much. You ought to have expected it. Listen. It is not my fault that coffee tastes good. Picking perhaps better hours to pick it, to drink it, that is another thing entirely. Oh, it's like a big library. You sit up at your desk, wincing, and gingerly you press a hand to your neck. You probe your muscles, which felt taut and hard beneath your skin, all knotted. Your fingers sink into your neck, procuring from you a sharp hiss like a boiled kettle. Then you turn. She is there, because of course she is. She never leaves this room of hers. You will pore over her studies at her desk for hours on end. She isn't doing any pouring right now, however. Fatigue must have caught up with her at long last, and now she lies slumped, her cheek resting against her own desk, her eyelids closed. Her hair sticks up from her scalp at all angles, and her skin looks very pale, almost sallow, in contrast. She snuffles a little as she sleeps, her chest rising and falling. Her fingers are curled upon the desktop, as small and delicate as a young girl's. Everything about her is small and delicate, a diminutive figure. Her clothes always seem too big and baggy for her. As a result, she looks almost half-formed, swamped by her own skirts. She looks like a child playing pretend, a young girl who has rifled through her mother's wardrobe, pulling on the clothes within at random. But her mother died many years ago, as did her father. This is why she was sent to live with you in your decently sized abode when you were both young girls, only 10 years apiece. She is your companion from childhood, but she is also, by the same token, so much more than that. Your father was acquainted with her father. They went to university together, and once were business partners, though they lost contact over the years. In most other stories, that would be the end of matters. But your father somehow heard that his former friend's wife had succumbed to an illness, his friend to the grief which ensued. In the wake of these unfortunate deaths, there was nobody to look after the young daughter which was left behind, until your father, always a bleeding heart, resolved to take her in. He welcomed this strange, pale-faced, bookish girl into your home, and your life changed for good. Before she appeared, your days were horribly dull and drab. You stayed indoors like a good little girl, for that was what your mother wanted. She was something of a hypochondriac, and you played with your dolls. You attended your lessons, and you read only the books which were considered appropriate for a young girl, and you always took care to mind your manners. You were well-bred, well-brought up, well-behaved, and you were horribly, achingly, indescribably bored. You railed against your lot in life, but only ever internally. As a young lady, you knew better than to say what you really thought, to try and make a scene. You did everything that was asked of you without complaint, while inside you screamed and raged and gnashed your teeth at the stupid, officious, pompous banality of it all, until she arrived on your doorstep. You had never met her before, and you took against her at once, especially when your father asked, in that hopeful way of his, that you treat her like a sister. A sister? You had never heard of anything so preposterous. She was a stranger. How could she be your sister when you were nothing alike? She looked foolish in your hand-me-downs, with her fair hair tied back futilely, for it never lay flat, with your ribbons, so much so you laughed at her. In the beginning, you thought of her as an amusing distraction, something to take out your petty childhood rages on. You would kick her covertly at the dinner table, and you would pinch her as you passed in a hallway, and you never did let her play with your dolls. You scorned her and you sneered at her, until that fateful day when poor Safi suffered an awful mishap. You were skipping along the garden, Safi in tow, imagining that you were a grown lady, that she was your small daughter when you stumbled. Then you fell. You collapsed to the ground, Safi tumbling from your arms. You sustained only a few shallow injuries yourself, a skinned knee, a bruise on your ankle, but Safi was far less fortunate. As a delicate doll, she was made of far more fragile stuff than a 10-year-old girl. She happened to fall awkwardly, and to your horror, her beautiful head hit a rock jutted out of the grass. The rock did not shatter her porcelain face, but Safi did undergo a rather gruesome transformation as a result. Both of Safi's lovely eyes were knocked loose from the force of her fall. The dull smack of porcelain against rock sent both of her eyes falling into the vast, empty hollow of her head. You scrambled to your feet after you fell, then grabbed hold of your poor doll. You stared at her, shaking. And then, upon seeing her empty sockets, you began to scream. You screamed and you screamed and you screamed until your throat threatened to tear. Tears began to bead in your eyes, hot, wet tears, like condensation on the side of a teacup, and your nose started to run with snot. Safi's new, eyeless visage was so horrifying that for a few minutes you forgot all sense of decorum, all sense of poise and grace. You forgot that you were supposed to be a lady. You cried, not as the daughter of a barnet, but like a gutter snipe, but like any gutter snipe would upon being caught out flitching a loaf of bread. Filching? That's a really... Ooh. You cried so loudly and so very excessively that your plaintive wailing could be heard across the garden. A nearby gardener started while pruning the topiary hedges. These are a lot more words than I expected. Don't want spoilers for lurking, so Thank you for lurking. It's always appreciated when you're here, Effie. A nearby gardener started while pruning the topiary hedges, and he dropped his shears, almost slicing off a few of his toes in the process. The gardener was unharmed, fortunately, not that you much cared in the throes of your immense grief, but the same could not be said for your poor Safi. She looked so frightful, with those empty, staring sockets where once her eyes had been. You could not look at her. She started to scare you, your beautiful doll, whom you had loved so dearly, as if she was an extension of you. You began to fear that your connection with Safi had been irreparably severed, that you would never be able to love something so malformed, no matter how hard you tried. But Safi's fate was not set in stone. Your sister soon heard of what had occurred, and she asked to see Safi later that night. Then, in a muted voice, she told you that she might be able to help. She sounded sincere enough, but you did not immediately trust her. In fact, in the beginning, you did not trust her at all. You had never been kind to her after all. You had seen her an usurper in your household, a competitor for your parents' affection. and you were worried she might use this as a chance to retaliate. You wondered internally if she meant to do Safi further harm, if she would smash her porcelain head to pieces like sand on the beach. But your sister sounded sincere enough, and she looked the part with those wide and innocent eyes of hers. She seemed genuinely concerned for Safi's plight, and what did it matter, you told yourself, if she did harm Safi further? Your poor beloved doll's eyes had already fallen inside her head. Let your sister fiddle around with her. She could hardly hurt Safi more than she had been hurt already. You shrugged carelessly, as if Safi's plight did not matter to you, and casually gave your sister permission to probe her. She could take a look at Safi if she wished, though you doubted anything would come of it. It seemed unlikely she would be able to fix her. That is what you thought, at least. But then, a miracle occurred. Your sister had Safi for only a brief while, 15 minutes if that. During the small window of time, however, she was somehow able to fish Safi's clinking eyes out of her cranium. She set the eyes back into place, her slender fingers quick and nimble, and handed her back to you without any flourishes, with only a quiet monosyllabic here. Initially, you found yourself incapable of believing it. You marveled at how your sister had managed to repair Safi, leaving behind no trace of her interference. Why, Safi looked as good as new. What black magic had your sister used to heal her? Your sister looked at you flatly and said there was no magic. She hadn't done anything special. I just put her eyes back into place. I had to saw open her skull first, to fish them out, but I put her back together again. Her hair covers it, so you can't even see the seam. It wasn't that difficult. It sounded difficult to you, despite your sister's explanation, difficult and incredibly technical alongside it. But you were so relieved to see that Safi was alright you didn't bother to press the issue. Instead, you smiled, your faith in the strange girl swelling within you. You had never much cared for the pale, pinched girl who had come to stay with you, but the single interaction converted you. Your new sister had saved Safi. Though she had been under no obligation to, you had always been perfectly horrible to her, yet she still came to your aid, without asking anything in return. After that, your opinion of your sister altered. You began to see her, not as a parasite, but as a true member of your family. Ever since that day, you endeavored to make her feel welcome, and in so doing, apologized for how cruelly you had once treated her. You stopped trying to trip her in the hallways, and you stopped playing mean-spirited jokes on her. You began to spend time with her instead, inviting her to take part in your imaginary tea parties, perusing her favorite books by her side. You listened to your sister talk, faltering at first, of her parents, and how they died. You held your sister during the first and last time she sobbed for her deceased mother, and you ran your fingers through her hair. You told her, your voice as soft and soothing as your own nursemaid's, that it would be alright. She didn't need to cry. You were there for her. You promised your sister that you would pledge yourself to her, and that is exactly what you did. Now, more than a decade later, you and your sister have remained inseparable, not twins in a biological sense, but the spiritual. Your sister once told you that she dreamt of becoming a doctor, or no, a scientist. It was her dream to revive the dead so that she might be able to see her mother once more, a dream she had pursued doggedly, no matter how impossible it might seem. Your sister studied hard, so much her parents realized it would be a waste to let her languish in the family estate. She was sent to boarding school at the age of 12, and later, she was even able to secure a scholarship to a well-renowned university. Naturally, you followed your sister, first to school, then to university, though you received no scholarship yourself. You are no scholar yourself, speak for yourself. Your examination results have always been decidedly mediocre, but you are determined to do all that you can to aid your sister in her studies. You traveled all the way to the capital to aid your sister in all of her trivial day-to-day affairs, for, genius though she may be, she has always been hopeless at looking after herself. Thanks for stopping by, MK. You and your sister rented rooms. A rundown atelier, which once belonged, or so you had heard, to a painter of some renown, and you helped her move in. For the last 2 years, you have kept your living space neat and tidy. Or, as neat and tidy as you can keep it, when your sister leaves so many books about, and the air smells faintly of turpentine. You prepare your sister's meals, and you pick up your sister's scattered belongings, and you generally ensure that she is taking proper care of herself. That is your lot in life. A maid of sorts to your sister, though you don't mind this. No words. You think it is what your sister deserves. She's a genius, after all. The genius who saved Safi, and who might one day save humanity. Others at the university might scoff and sneer at her. Your sister is one of 5 female students, but you will always support her in her endeavors. You have no choice but to support her. You do love her, after all. Your love for her is intense and driving, just like flames, which threaten to consume all else. But, for all of your love, you have found yourself woefully incapable of convincing your sister to actually attend her classes. She's become more and more ensconced in her research these last 6 months, ever since she stumbled upon the findings of one Dr. Godwin. Upon discovering this enigmatic doctor's thesis on life and death, your sister has redoubled her efforts to eradicate all illness, all disease, the very concept of death itself. So enamored has she been, she has stopped attending classes. She has stopped going outside. She has become a complete recluse, and, were it not for you, you fear she might have wasted away already in the prolonged pursuit of knowledge. Naturally, you tried to dissuade your sister from focusing too intensely on Dr. Godwin's thesis. You tried to impress upon your sister the importance of her studies, and how wonderful an opportunity it is that she was accepted into university at all. You told her, in a fit of passion, women aren't often allowed admittance into universities. These are places for men, where they learn how to dissect bodies, how to take people apart, how to hold life itself in the palms of their hands. That she was accepted is a miracle in and of itself. Could she not make the most of this opportunity, which she has yearned for so ardently? Why does she not content herself with studying medicine, so that she might help more people, just as she helped Safi? Does she not remember how happy she made you when she cured your poor beloved doll of her awful ailment? Just think of how many more people she could make happy if only she was willing to work for it. You said all of this and more to your sister, hoping it would sway her, but your words were ineffectual. They rolled off her, like water drumming against a canopy of an umbrella. I know, your sister replied, in that slow and sleepy voice of hers, that I am lucky, being allowed to study here. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, which is why I can't throw it away. If I don't indulge in my studies now, Karo, I'll never get a chance. I won't have access to all these books, or all the equipment I have been loaning from the biology department. I'm not throwing this opportunity away. It's the opposite. I'm making use of the only opportunity I might have to only know that. I'm making use of the only opportunity I might have the only way I know how. Your sister stood firm against your dissent, for of course she did. She always has been so determined, despite being so diminutive, so dogged in her pursuit of the one ultimate truth. You knew she would never listen, that she is far too stubborn. So in the end, you folded, just as you always do. Sometimes you wish you had been harsher with her, but you fear if you had spoken to her too sharply, she would have turned away from you altogether. Then you would no longer have a sister. There would be a hole in your heart where once your love for her lay, and you would have been broken. Your sister is your sun, who illuminates your dreary days. It is she who gives you a purpose, and it is about her you revolve. Without her, you would not know what to do with yourself. You need her, and you cannot deny the shiver of delight you feel when she calls you by your childhood nickname. Karo, my Karo. Caro. To all others, you are Caroline, a posh proper name, but not her. Caro. To your sister, you have always been Caro. You knew, the moment she addressed you thus, that any argument you might have thought to make would be summarily defanged. That is a cute nickname. Your sister might be small, but you have never been able to stand up to her. She holds all of the cards, and perhaps she knows this. She is a scientist after all. She likes to take things apart to see what makes them tick. She always has done, ever since she was a small child. In her youth, she would take snuff boxes apart at their hinges and pry open the cases of carriage locks solely to see how they fit together. In the beginning, she was not always able to put these delicate, fiddly, finicky antiques back together, but she soon learned. Now, only master horologists can best her when it comes to understanding the shape and form of any kind of clock, from a large grandfather clock to the smallest of pocket watches. Her thirst for knowledge is unquenchable. If she can take apart a grandfather clock, then you are certain that she can take you apart too, breaking you down to your core components. She knows what comprises you, and she knows only too well what strings to pull to bend you to her will. You have no will of your own, not where she is concerned. You have always been incapable of saying no to her. You prepare her food and you clean her clothes, and you also, during days like this, wake her from her slumber so she might face the day anew. You observe her for a few moments, marveling at how unguarded she looks when she sleeps. When asleep, how small and finely formed her features. Her nose is snub, her lips pursed like an angel's, and her eyelashes are very long. Her dainty fingers look like a doll's, the nails surprisingly neat despite the messy nature of her experiments. Her nails are pale pink at the tips, a soft rose color, which look almost as though they have been painted, glossed and buffed to perfection. You think her perfectly adorable, even if she has begun to drool in her sleep. Despite that, you cannot help but love her. You love her as you have never loved anything, or indeed anyone else. And you are sure that will never change. You continue to observe her, content to bask in her soft sleeping form, before, with a smile, you lean in. Gently, you wipe away the string of drool stuck to her cheek. Then, your voice light, you tell her to wake up. She has fallen asleep on her desk again, and she has scattered her important documents everywhere, though they cannot be all that important, you add, with a teasing smile. If they were, surely you wouldn't have drooled on them. Sorry, piercing eyes. What? This, at least, is enough to make your sister stir. She blinks and then says, I wasn't, was I? Oh yes, you rejoin, with the enthusiasm of a pantomime villain. You were. No, your sister says, though she sounds less certain this time. I wasn't. Really, you rejoin, while raising an eyebrow. Do you want to bet on that? What are we betting? You ponder for a moment, one hand resting against your chin. Then, in a flash of inspiration, you say, maybe a slice of apple pie? What? Are you baking a pie? Not right now, you tell your sister, but you might, so long as she's willing to admit she really does drool in her sleep, like any other mortal. And if I don't admit to it? Well, that's too bad, but there'll be no apple pie for her. No pie. Slowly, your sister sits, stretching out the cricks in her arms and neck like a cat. Then, pouting, she says, That's not fair. You're playing dirty. I know, you rejoin, but I have to when I'm with you. You don't leave me with much of a choice, when you're so stubborn. Now, are you prepared to admit that you do, in fact, drool? There is a pause. Your sister looks up at you sullenly, then says, Maybe, sometimes. You grin, the battle won, for now at least, and rest a hand upon her head. Roughly, you pat her, your sister pouts. Then tell her you'll make a start on that pie later. First, however, you need to make her presentable. Her hair is an awful mess. Why, it looks just like a bird's nest. I think, your sister rejoins, as you retrieve a brush from the table, that you're exaggerating. There are no twigs or sticks in my hair. Well, that should go without saying. She never goes outside, so when would the opportunity arise? Now, you address your sister, hold still. You introduce the brush to her fair tresses, which are so messy they threaten to devour the brush whole. Then you start to comb. You comb your sister's hair slowly while she squirms like a grumpy cat. She has never enjoyed these little grooming routines. You know she cannot see the point, not when she spends so much time indoors, but you like tending to her. It makes you feel as though you have a purpose, a raison d'etre, as the French might say. She gives you a reason to exist, a reason to simply be. Without your sister, you are not sure what you would be, who you would be. And if there is something at all alarming about that thought, you choose not to dwell on it. You push your concerns into your subconscious, where they need never bother you. Then your voice chirpily, you ask your sister if she has any plans for today. Marigolds. You beg her pardon? You incline your head, still holding the brush, and blink. I am not going to make any comment about the main character inclining her head, considering I may or may not do that on occasion when asking a question or when I am pondering something. It is simply a charming character trait. Though if you asked me to call myself charming, you would sooner find me dead. This is another one of your sister's idiosyncrasies. You will ask her a question and she will reply with a single word, as if this constitutes a robust and well-formed answer. Listen. You have spent enough time with your sister that often you can tease the deeper meaning behind her lack of communication. At other times, however, you find yourself quite in the dark. What, you ask her, does she mean? What about marigolds? Your sister sighs. Her small shoulders slump as if ought to be obvious. Then, her voice quiet, she says, I need to pick some marigolds for a tonic. A tonic? Yes, a tonic. I want to conduct an experiment to see what effect marigolds have upon a person's pain receptors. Naturally, I'll test them myself. It won't be toxic. Right. You're not wholly convinced about that. Your sister's definition of not toxic seems to differ from that of ordinary people, but you try not to be too perturbed. Marigolds are not a rare and exotic ingredient. They can be purchased rather cheaply in bouquets at the florist, and you know that there are a lot of them by the riverbank. In fact, you find yourself hitting upon an idea. You tell your sister that, if she needs to gather marigolds, you might as well go together. You know a place where they bloom in abundance, if she wishes to come with you. What? Your sister looks at you flatly, her eyes narrowed, lips pressed together in a flat, featureless line. Why would I want to do that? Well, why not? Was she hoping that you would fetch the marigolds for her ill-gotten experiment for her? This is exactly what I was hoping, your sister says, and my experiment isn't ill-gotten. There's nothing suspicious about it. It sounds like she's protesting too much. No, there really isn't. It would be perfectly safe. Marigolds can be toxic. I wonder... like... this is a part of, like, why I really like Ebi-Hime's writing, because it's both subtle and unsubtle when it wants to be. Because it shows up in, It Gets So Lonely here too, where, like, there's a lot of very kind of obvious foreshadowing in the writing and in the prose, where it's just like, okay, that's a little bit suspect. Why did you say it that way? Why did you phrase it that way? Because it's kind of like leading you down where it's going to go. And that's like, it's something that you can only get once on your first time through. That makes it so engaging to me. It's like seeing the breadcrumb trails and knowing that it leads you into a bear trap, but you're wondering if the bear trap's going to be a normal one or if it's going to have dynamite on it. You hope so, else you won't be able to enjoy your apple pie later. I will enjoy it. It will be delicious. Lightly, you laugh. You're glad your sister has so much faith in your baking, at least. But you feel there is one thing she ought to know. What? Food always tastes better, you say lightly, when enjoyed after one has done some physical exercise. Is she sure she doesn't wish to come and pick the marigolds with you? Yes, your sister replies flatly. I'm sure. But doesn't it seem like a waste? It's such a lovely day, you insist. The birds are singing and the sun is shining, and time waits for no man. I have work that needs to be done. And yet, you rejoin, she does not mind putting her work aside for a few minutes to enjoy a slice of your freshly baked apple pie. That is different. In what regard? I like your apple pie, but I don't like going outside. It's horrible. Well, now, that is a shame. You don't think that outside is so bad, really. I know you don't. That's why I want you to go for me. And isn't it a little sad? A genius of her caliber consigning herself indoors all the time? I never said that I was a genius. That's a title you've given me. I didn't ask for it. No, you suppose she didn't. She hardly ever asks for anything. Often, she is so ensconced in her research she doesn't ask you, or anybody else for that matter, for anything. Immersive. Like, it's so easy, especially for me, to kind of get sucked into the to Ebi's stories, especially the prose. The prose is just genuinely like very. It's very, not to make a pun, flowerful. I like, partly is kind of like where some of my inspiration came from, because I'm really, as a writer, I don't even want to say as a writer myself, I feel like I write dialogue very well, but I feel like I suffer a lot when it comes to prose. But the way that Ebi-Hime writes prose, I feel like I'm more... I feel like the more that I study like Ebi's prose, I get slowly, if slightly better at writing it, or at least expressing in a way that I feel is expressive, I think. Because it's very conversational. Like, it feels like the author, it feels like the narrator is more so communicating directly with the reader slash player character, instead of just being very flat and descriptive. Which tends to pull my attention in a lot, which means like, oh, I think this is really interesting, so I'm probably going to try and do something like it. Instead of being very flat and descriptive. Your sister isn't especially demanding, not most of the time at least. But still, you feel compelled to impress upon her genius. She might not think of herself as such, but you do. You think she is wonderful when it comes to biology, at least, and chemistry, and how bodies fit together. She is less so when it comes to the rest of the world. There are curious gaps in her knowledge, for when your sister does not care about something, she does not try to understand it. She is content to be wholly ignorant in some affairs, cooking and cleaning, and sometimes, though you hesitate to admit to this, other people's feelings. But your love for her is stronger than her apathy, and you are determined to win her over. You tell your sister that she must go outside every once in a while, even if she doesn't want to. It will do her some good, being able to stretch, to walk, to feel the sunlight on her face. I doubt it, your sister says, mistrustfully, as you continue to run the brush through her hair. Too much exposure to the sunlight can damage your skin. I thought pale-skinned Anglo-Saxons only had to worry about that. That is true, you reply, but surely she is in no immediate danger of that. She goes outside so rarely, you fail to see how it could harm her every once in a while. One can never be too careful. I don't want to take any chances. You understand, but you worry she will sicken all the same, sunlight or no, if she gets no exercise whatsoever. It's not important to get her heart. I would not be against her being a vampire. I think this one was supposed to be a little bit more grounded, but I'm not sure. But if she does want to sink her fangs into me, I'm not going to protest. Is it not important to get her heart pumping? I would rather not. I can't stand sweating, your sister replies, her brow furrowed. But then she catches your eyes, and she sighs. Well, alright then. She eventually capitulates, as she often tends to when you really press her. If you insist, I suppose I can go on a little walk. You resist the urge to punch your fist in the air in victory. You do not want to seem too smug, and instead smile. That's 1 point to you, and none to your sister. You finish brushing your sister's hair to compel her to stand, something which takes more effort than one might imagine, given she is so slight. Then you continue to tend to her, tucking in her blouse and straightening her skirt. Eventually, you are assured she is presentable, and you offer her the crook of your arm. Well, you tell her, your voice sunny. Shall we go? Your sister looks at you questioningly, a furrow forming in her brow. There is a small pause, and then, if I must. Your sister twines her arm through yours. You have to suppress the resultant rush of euphoria. Then she leans against you. Wide-eyed, she blinks up at you and she says, Is this alright? Why, of course it is. There's nothing you want more than to wander outdoors with your sister, arm in arms. You can wish for no greater privilege in the world. I think you're exaggerating, your sister says with a small, rare smile. My company isn't all that riveting, really. Ha! For a genius, it would seem there is a lot she is still ignorant of. But I am glad you think so. Would you mind leading the way? It would be your pleasure. You depart, letting the door to your rooms fall shut behind you. It is a pleasant day, like you had hoped, and the sky overhead is very blue, broken only by a few clouds. You think it is pleasant, at least, though your sister seems not to agree. She cringes away from the sunlight like a vampire, though vampires, of course, do not exist. They are not very scientific, hissing like a cat. Fine. Can't always have a cannibal princess. You look at her askance. Is it too bright for her? And she blinks rapidly in response. Her arm tightens about your own, just like a lost little child. Is she, for all of her intellect, afraid of venturing outdoors? And she says, I'll be fine. It will just take me a while to adjust. You suppose you can understand that. She doesn't go outside very often. Your reckless genius of a little sister. When was the last time she went outdoors? Your sister's brow furrows in thought. She blinks, then says, Now that you mention it, I don't remember. It must have been maybe 2 months? Months? It is even worse than you feared. You thought it had been weeks at the very least, but you and your sister have both been busy. Time flies, or so they say, when you have been having fun, and you always have fun when you are with your sister. You cannot help but enjoy how much she needs you. It is one of the few things in life which makes you feel powerful. You let your sister cling to you as you walk along the riverbank, leading the way along the verdant, gently sloping banks, which look like something out of a fairy tale. The soles of your shoes crunch against the grass, and as you walk, you cannot stop yourself from smiling. Your sister might be a genius, but she cannot conduct her experiments on her own. You are irreplaceable. And this thought is enough to put a spring in your step during your wanderings. You are able to find the flowers your sister needs by the riverbank swiftly enough, but you have no desire to end your excursion there. It has been 2 months since your sister last exited her atelier, and it would be a shame and it would seem a shame to return so soon. Since you were able to persuade her to stop outdoors, you might as well enjoy the moment a little longer. You glance at your sister, a small smile playing about your lips, and you ask her what she would like to do now. Does she have any plans? Plans? Your sister blinks, then says, I always have plans. Now that we have these marigolds, I want to brew this tonic. Time is of the essence, yes. She has said that once already, but why is she always in such a hurry? Your sister has always been devoted to her peculiar experiments, ever since she was a young girl, but you get the distinct feeling she has been pushing herself even harder than usual. Is there any particular reason? Oh, you know me, your sister replies, glancing away from you as she speaks. They say that the devil makes work for idle hands, and we all have a limited time on this earth. I don't want to waste it. You can see the logic behind that, certainly, but you are concerned that if your sister spends too much of her limited time indoors, she will forget what makes life worth living in the first place. You are worried about me, then? Well, of course. How could you not be worried about her? She is your beloved sister. There is nobody in this world you love more than her. Your sister laughs lightly at this, and, to your surprise, she sits down. Her skirt pulls about her just like the unfurling petals of a flower, as she says, That is rather funny. You take a seat beside your sister on the riverbank, then look at her askance. What is funny? That you love me so much. You didn't care for me when I first moved in with you, not in the slightest. In fact, I think you rather hated me. Well, she isn't wrong there. But that was a long time ago. You were just a child then, and anyway, you have loved her for far longer than you have hated her. I suppose, your sister says, fishing among the grassy bank for a flower. She plucks it, then toys with it, pulling off the velveteen petals one by one. A small smile plays about her lips, her eyes soft behind the lens of her glasses as she says, Now, this reminds me of something. Of what? Of that game we used to play as children. The one with the flowers. If you peel off the petals, you can determine whether somebody loves you. Or so people say. It's all superstition, naturally. These flowers know no more about my love life than the stars in the sky, but I suppose it's rather romantic. You're surprised your sister remembered these childish games of yours, conducted in the gardens. Is she not too grown for them? Is she not too grown up for them? I ought to be, I suppose. I am an adult now. But I was happy then, with you. I might have played these funny games with you, but it was only ever your love that I wanted. And she still has it, you reassure her. You have never once stopped loving her, not since she saved Safi. Yes, I know, you have been very good to me, but I fear I haven't always been good to you in return. Your sister hangs her head, her brow furrowed. She plucks another flower from the grass, yanking it by its stem, and another, and another. There's a moment of silence, and then... Karo. Yes, what is it? You are right when you say I've been overworking myself. I am aware my conduct has been less than ideal, and is certainly less than sisterly. I fear I've been neglecting both you and myself. But I need to focus, otherwise I'm afraid I will fall behind, that all of my hard work will be for naught. I have to make something of myself. I vowed when my mother died I would dedicate myself to being a scientist who could surmount the difference between life and death, one who would sure nobody need cry like I did. I just don't want anybody to suffer. Yes, you did think it was something like that. Is that why she's been working so hard? That, and I feel I need to prove myself. You know, when I stopped attending my lectures, I told you it was because the professors had nothing they could teach me. You can recall that well. You thought it was a shockingly arrogant remark coming from your sister, who has always been so humble despite her razor-sharp intellect. You did wonder whether something had happened, but you did not want to pry. Yes, I know you knew that something had happened. I could tell. You aren't my precious sister for nothing. You know so much about me. I wonder why I bothered to keep it from you. Perhaps it was my pride getting in the way, as per usual. For somebody so small, I have an abundance of it. Or maybe I have an abundance of it because of my size. I wonder. This does not bode well. You frown. Then ask your sister what she means. Did somebody at the university insult her? It might be quicker to list the people in that hateful institution who did not insult me, your sister says somberly. Still picking flowers. She now has quite the collection of them. My fellow students often looked down on me for being a woman, but my professors were even worse. Some of them were not too bad. I was rather fond of old Armand, but the others clearly thought it was beneath them to teach a mere woman. They looked down their noses at me, and they made no attempts to hide it. It was all so very exhausting. You digest your sister's words in silence, your head hanging. You're somewhat surprised to hear her say this, but you're not surprised that this happened. You have never been the university yourself, but you have heard that universities are haunts of men, and prideful, pompous men at that. While more women are attending university now, your sister is still something of a trailblazer. She is spearheading a new wave of female scholars, and while you are proud of her, you did imagine she would struggle to fit in. You were concerned for your sister when first you moved here, but you tried not to show it. You did not want your sister to think you were fussing. You tried to remain optimistic. You could not forget the haunted look on your sister's face when she returned home from her first day on campus. She looked dead in the eyes as you have never before seen her, utterly defeated. She wandered through the atelier slowly, like a clockwork toy which had run down, and she did not sit at her desk to review her notes. Instead, she collapsed on her bed in your shared room, and there she lay on her front for hours. You had never seen your sister, your fierce, determined sister, look so defeated. That she was able to pull herself up and continue attending her classes after that was something of a miracle. But it seems that, in the end, she was not able to keep at it. She was worn down too much. I'm sure I could have learned many interesting things, your sister says, her voice bitter, were I given the opportunity. But it's hard to pay attention when it's apparent your mere existence is a cause for offense. Yeah. The atmosphere was so horribly oppressive, it was hard to pay attention, and it does not help that my fellow classmates scorned me. Most of them were cruel and callous, and those who weren't seemed a touch too interested in me. I could never let my guard down, not for a second. They claimed to be learned men, but many of them were far from it. They were remarkably childish. I could not bear to keep attending, only to be mocked for my efforts. I thought it is best to retire to my atelier, to carry out my own experiments unimpeded. But it is important, you understand, that I make some sort of breakthrough. I want to make a great discovery quickly, so that I might rub my success in the face of my professors and my peers, those who are short-sighted enough to scorn me. I want to prove to them that I deserve to earn my scholarship, that I deserve to call myself a scientist. I wish to make a great breakthrough that will make them gnash their teeth together in envy, that will make them feel as small and as pathetic as they have made me feel. I want to show them that they are the truly stupid ones. I need to best them at their own game, Karo. And I'm sure Dr. Goblin's thesis will help me. I am so close to hitting upon something big. I am sure of it. I just need to work a little harder. My goal will soon be in my sight. But until I have accomplished that, I cannot give up. I have to keep working. It is the only way I can prove to myself that my existence has worth, that it was not some mistake my mother died instead of me. I have to do this. Until I succeed in my research, I am nothing. I have nothing. You listen to your sister's impassioned speech quietly, as you often do when she begins to begins to soliloquize. Your sister is not a talkative person in general. She tends to keep to herself, to communicate in monosyllables. She only speaks like this when she's truly excited about something, or else truly upset. That's also something I really do like about Ebi-Hime, is that there are bigger words that like I don't frequently get to read. Granted, that's more tied to my own reading habits, but also, there's a difference between reading internally and then reading externally, where like I could read something like that internally and I could perfectly understand it, but then when I actually have to say it, then I start tripping over my own tongue. But it's a good exercise and it's important. You fear that her research in the nebulous land of the dead is a fool's errand, yet you want to reassure her regardless. Your sister is a genius after all. She can do no wrong. Though she is mistaken on one point. Oh? Your sister blinks. She inclines her head, then says, "What is that?" She does not have nothing. You are here for her, after all, and you have not left. Come what may, you will always be by her side. Your sister inhales. She blinks, then says, "Always?" Yes, you reassure her. Always. Oh, Carol. Sometimes I think you are the only person who understands me. You are the only person I can rely on. The only person I can turn to. I just hope you don't hate me for what I might become. Hate her? Very relatable. You frown, then ask her why she would say that. You could never hate her. As a little bit of a hopeless romantic, it does. Hoping for a very intimate attachment like that is par for the course, at least in terms of my what's an adequate way of saying it? Like what, romantic desire? You frown, then ask her why she would say that. You can never hate her. Chronically hopeless romantic. That's a very fitting description for me, honestly. Do you mean that? Really and truly? Yes, you reassure her without a moment's pause. You mean every last word. You will never turn against her, and that is a promise. How could you, when you love her so much? Oh, Carol. Your sister's expression softens, like sunlight spilling through gaps in the gray and gauzy clouds. She leans in, her face a little flushed, and for one mad moment, you think that she might kiss you. You're half expecting it, actually. Your eyelids are beginning to fall shut when... I always knew I could trust you. You might not be related to me by blood, yet you will always be a sister to me. Your sister reaches out. You see her holding something, a circlet made of delicate orange marigolds, picked from the tall grass which sways along the riverbank. Your sister's hands are nimble and quick, and though she is trained with a scalpel, she cuts open several cadavers before she stops attending her classes. Destruction is not the only language she is well versed in. She is also gifted in the art of creation. And the crown she has fashioned for you, out of these lovely golden orange marigolds, is so beautiful you could weep. If only you could preserve it in the formalin, the crown, and this rare afternoon spent together by the riverbank. Pretty girls giving flowers and flower crowns might also be very effective against me, is all that I can really say. Then you think you could face any hardship without flinching. Your memory of your sister and this precious moment will remain in your heart forevermore. And you would never have to feel sad or unwanted or uncertain again. You return to the atelier soon after this little talk with your sister's marigolds in hand. You were not gone very long, after all, only an hour or so, if that. But the brief time spent outdoors has cleared some of the cobwebs from your head. Your mind feels clear and your body has been imbued with brand new strength. You are ready to face anything, now that you know how much your sister needs you. The memory of her body pressed against yours burns you, just like a brand, and you sigh from it. You have often worried, from the day you realized how much you love her, that she might leave you. But your excursion has wiped all such doubts from your mind. You feel reborn, revitalized even, as your sister says, "Now that we have the flowers, will you prepare them for me? Like I said, this tonic won't be poisonous. I don't mean to mix anything suspect into it." You wish you could take your sister's reassurance at face value, but part of you wonders, this would not be the first time she has lied to you. Most of your sister's lies are of the white variety, uttered to put you at ease, but it is a trick she has resorted to one too many times. Are you sure, you ask her, hands on your hips? The tincture will not be poisonous. Are you really, truly sure? Yes, your sister replies, her composure unwavering. I am sure. The worst it can do to me is give me an unpleasant stomach. The worst it can do to me is give me an upset stomach. All the same, you would rather not risk it, especially when you promised to bake her apple pie earlier. Is there any way to record the results of this curious tonic? Not initially. We would need to give it some time. I still want to try though. Well, of course she does. Your sister is adventurous, and she's willing to try almost anything, even the most poisonous parts of a pufferfish, at least once. If not for you and your presence, she would have killed herself at least 12 times over from her curiosity. I can respect a dedicated enough scientist to put herself in danger numerous times like that. But you are there for her, and you can dissuade her against her more problematic impulses. You know when your sister is lying to you, and you think, though you do not know, she is probably telling the truth about these herbs. They are probably safe. You do not want to risk incurring her disappointment in any case if you were to throw them away, and doing so would void the value of your walk along the riverbank. You do not want to let her down, so, after a pause, you acquiesce. You will brew this tonic for her, if that is what she really wants. Her wish is your command. Thank you, your sister says, with a brief nod of her head. It is appreciated. While you do that, I will return to Spartacus. There are a few more experiments I wish to run on him. Poor Spartacus! You smile wearily, then tell your sister you feel rather bad for him. Your poor, ill-used tortoise who has lived, surprisingly enough, for all of your sister's experiments, almost 70 years. Spartacus is a hand-me-down, a wise, wrinkly creature which once belonged to your grandmother. Not sure the word command fits in romance. I mean, depending. They already did, like it was already established that you are, that Caro, not you, faithful reader, that Caro is the maid. Acts of service is recognized as a love language. Your grandmother cherished Spartacus when she was a young girl, younger than you are now, and she later bequeathed Spartacus to her daughter, your mother. Your mother, in turn, gave Spartacus to you, and your sister, who has never been able to leave well enough alone, wound up co-opting him. Your sister began her peculiar experiments on Spartacus in earnest shortly after she repaired poor Sapphi's sightless eyes. With your permission, she would time him to see how quickly he could walk down the length of the hallway. The answer to that was not very. How many lettuce leaves he could eat in an hour. She timed how long he slept, his reactions to both hot and cold, and she recorded his stools. Your sister's experiments became more intrusive as the years passed, and now she often has Spartacus hooked up to various cathodes and diodes. Not that Spartacus seemed much to mind. He endures his suffering in serene, graceful manner, like an old man who knows his time will soon come to a close. You do not always like the things your sister does to Spartacus, but you think, or at least think, that your sister loves him really. She has yet to kill him, at least, which seems like something of a miracle. You're somewhat hesitant to let your sister toy with your poor tortoise even more, but you know, if you said anything, she would frown and say she is not toying with him. Your sister takes all lives very seriously, even the life of a tortoise. I do not play, your sister always says, her voice cool. This is all for the greater good. Don't nag me so much, dear Caro. That's right, you tell yourself. Don't nag, Caro. Leave your sister alone. You're both adults now. You need to learn to get along. You tell your sister she may do with Spartacus what she pleases, and she nods sleepily in response. Of course I can. He is mine after all. Of course, you reply with a nod of recognition. Everything that is yours is your sister's. But the saint doth not hold true that everything that is hers is also yours. There is a definite imbalance here, an inherent unfairness which underpins your interactions. But you love your sister so much you do not want to question it. What does it matter if she runs electrical currents through poor Spartacus at odd hours? That does not alter how you feel about her. You do not think anything could. You love her so much, you wish that things could stay like this indefinitely. You and her, and your elderly tortoise who accepts being tortured with a benign nod of his head. But you know that this is wishful thinking. Nothing can remain the same forever. As living beings, you naturally exude kinetic energy. Your lives are constantly in a state of flux, especially your sister. That's very foreboding. I don't know why my lips are so dry. I say it despite constantly reading. A few days follow after your journey to the riverbank, and your sister has been in a curious mood since. Harsh. She constantly paces about the atelier like a caged tiger, and she has been muttering to herself with alarming frequency. You can hear her muttering now, even as you try to work, her plaintive tones breaking your cocoon of concentration. No good. It's still not enough. It's nowhere near enough. Your sister mumbles, sounding more upset than you have ever heard her, more upset than you knew she could be. You blink, bemused, and lift your head. You stare at your sister, who is, in turn, staring down at herself. She is looking down at her arm, so pale and slender, with the sleeve of her shirt rolled up. Her arm is very pale, but it is pockmarked here and there with red bumps and lumps. Curious burns, old scars, new scars, and blue-black bruises. You know that your sister has performed any number of peculiar experiments on herself. She often brings her fingertips to the flame to see how long she can hold them there, draws her own blood from the inside of her arm, scrapes away her own dead skin to examine beneath the lens of a microscope. The sight of her bruised arm is not, therefore, too shocking. You are aware of your sister's peculiar proclivities, as it were. Now every single cut and burn and bruise on her arms as though they are your own. But, at the same time, you do not like the disconsolate way she is looking at herself. Disconsolate. Your sister is examining her injured, abused arm as if she claims no ownership of it, as if she does not know it. And it is the disconnect in her eyes which makes you shudder. What does she mean it's not enough? She isn't planning to cut her whole arm off next, is she? Slowly to see how she might react? What? Your sister replies, her voice cool. There's a pause, and then, no, of course not. I would never do something like that to myself. That is what she says, at least. But it doesn't sound wholly convincing. Can she promise you that? Naturally. I promise. I am a scientist first and foremost, you know, and I need both my arms to conduct my experiments. It would only impair my research if I hurt myself too much. Which is where the problem lies, actually. Okay, class, we're gonna take a quick second. Let's see if we can find the key words in these two statements. Not even key words, key phrases. Naturally, I promise. I'm a scientist first and foremost, you know, and I need both my arms to conduct my experiments. It would only impair my research if I hurt myself too much. Which is where the problem lies, actually. The problem? Yes, there is a problem. I've been experimenting on myself this last couple of months, your sister says, her voice detached. But my own body has run its course. I fear I can't extract any more useful information out of it. If I continue to ramp up these experiments, I will hurt myself. I cannot let that happen, but I cannot stop my research either. I want to reverse death, but I can only learn so much about death from studying the living. Dead rats are well and good, and so are dead cats. But they are not humans. Their anatomy is not the same as ours. There's only so much I can glean from them. They too have outlived their usefulness. Here, your sister pauses as she inhales. Feels like a lot of dialogue now has some dashes. They're useful. It's one of those things where, like, it's one of those things where, like, the more that it's used, you end up seeing more people who like, oh, that's really interesting, I want to use that, and they use it. It's how words get around. It's mimetics. Maybe just didn't pay enough attention. If it happens. But no, I've definitely noticed the dashes being used a lot more recently, too. Your sister is not one for theatrics. She is very matter-of-fact in all she does, and you do not think she means to create any suspense, not deliberately at least. Edgy parentheses. The cool parentheses. She's simply pausing to think best how to word her following statement. You know she does not want to make you squirm, and yet... So, your sister says, heedless of the knot which has begun to form in the pit of your stomach. I need more human bodies to experiment upon. Dead bodies. That is the only way I will be able to get the information that I need. I know it might sound macabre, but I think it's the next logical step. Do you not agree? Your sister's eyes bore into you, cold and hard, so you shiver. For a few moments you do not speak. You do not know what to say. Though you doubt there is anything you can say. It seems unlikely, as the seconds tick by, that there is anything you can do to dissuade her, anything that might be able to curb her mounting madness. I think she sees the threat and it might be stemming from my neck. You tried once before, to little avail, though she is your beloved sister, the most precious person to you in all the world. She refused to listen to you. Your entreaties, earnest though they were, could not reach her. She has always been determined to walk her own path. She is headstrong to a fault, and when she has set her heart to something, she never wavers. You know, therefore, that she will not let this subject rest. Now that she has decided she wishes to experiment upon corpses, there is no going back. But still, you feel compelled to offer up at least a token of resistance. It seems like the very least you could do, grimly aware that grimly aware though you are that it will soon be swept away. You inhale, one hand upon your chest, then ask her to reconsider. If she wishes to cut up corpses, can she not attend her lectures again? They have plentiful materials she can use without having to resort to procuring them herself. Surely that would be more ethical. But I can't go back to the university, your sister argues, her eyes wide behind the lens of her glasses. I won't go back there, not until my research has made greater strides. And to do that, I need to find more bodies. I'll not be able to get anywhere at this rate. You understand her frustrations, of course, but you cannot say you like this idea. Is there any other way? No, your sister says, her voice stiff. If there was, I wouldn't have suggested it. It would be illogical otherwise. Well, she has a point there. You can't argue with that. Then don't argue with me, Carol. Please. Your sister rises as she speaks onto her slender, deer-like limbs. She takes a step forth, then reaches out. She presses her fingers to your yielding flesh, digits splayed as she entreats you. I need your help. I can't do this alone. I'm trusting you with this. The future of my research rests upon your shoulders. Can you not aid me? You shudder all of a sudden. Your mouth feels dry, your throat too, as if it has been stuffed full of ashes. For a few moments you cannot speak. You can only blink. There is a pause, and then... I'm not asking you to kill anybody, Carol. I've never asked you to become a murderess for me. But just think of the future. Think of a world where nobody needs to die. I think that is worth a sacrifice or two. And in a few exhumed graves. A few? One exhumed grave is a tall order already, but... Alright, disregard that. One is enough for now. It is more than enough. I just want to have a cadaver here, so I might examine it properly. You just need to dig up a single grave. I'm sure you can find some pauper's grave, somebody who will not be missed. You are sure she is right, but putting the practical concerns to one side, does she not think that awfully macabre? You fear if you were to dig up a corpse, you would never be admitted to heaven, not after committing so wicked a sin. Would that not make you evil? I fail to see how. Dogs dig up bones all the time. Does that make them evil? Well, no, you reply, but that is an unfair argument. Dogs cannot be evil because they have no concept of human morality. Then do away with your own notions of morality. Don't let it scare you against the greater good. There are many people, you know, who have lived lives devoid of meaning. They lived, and they drank, and they gambled, and whored, and they died in ignominy. Oh my god. Ignominy. This is one of the words that I mean, where like if I can read it, I could understand it, and like, oh, I can continue on. The fact that I have to say it out loud is catching me really bad. Ignominy. No. Ignominy. No. Ignominy. And they died in ignominy. Yes, ignominy. Fuck. These are pointless lives, worthless lives, even one might say. But in death, I can bestow them new meaning. I can bestow new meanings upon them. I can make them worth something. Do you not think this is a wonderful thing? You look at your sister mutely, her palms still cupping your cheeks, her eyes so wide and searching, you could drown in them. You would hesitate to call this wonderful. Your sister's determination, her raw, unshakable certainty, makes you shudder. But, in the end, you capitulate to her whims. You have no other choice. Capitulate is also a word that I've been seeing a lot more recently. Your sister knows exactly where to press and what to pull to make you fall into line, to make you obey. And you would not have it any other way. It is because of your sister that you find yourself in the local graveyard later that night, with nothing but a lantern to light your way. It is a dark, cold night, not quiet, not quite stormy, not yet at least, though, based on the gray clouds which swirl overhead, a storm isn't beyond the realm of possibility. You would draw your shawl about you, but your hands are otherwise encumbered, accompanied by handles of a wheelbarrow which you co-opted for your dark bidding. Very melancholic, very heavy. After she very tenderly holds you by the side of your face and asks you to go dig up a body for her. Not saying that that's romantic or that it's not romantic, I'm just simply recounting the facts. You intend to use this barrow to transport the corpses from the churchyard to your home. The corpse you will most definitely dig up and bequeath to your sister, for that is what she wants. A sad shade of almost. Plausible deniability. It is what she asked of you. Inside the barrow is your trusty lamp, which cleaves a path through the fog, and your shovel, which you will need to exhume the grave. Both your hands are occupied pushing the barrow forth, so you cannot pause to wind your shawl about you. All you can do is tremble instead, feeling like a small, sad, piteous thing as the wind moans. It is very late, well past midnight. There are no lights in the immediate vicinity. The windows of the church are dark, and the nearby houses have been shuttered, their curtains drawn. At least you have the moon to guide you, round and full like a wheel of cheese in the heavens, but is obscured by clouds. You can only see a few slivers of the moon, but what little you can gather looks ghostly, ominous, maybe a little too close. You swear when you glance up that you can see a face in the moon's pitted aged surface, a face with large, dark eyes and a sneering mouth, which seems to mock you from afar with cold contempt. The wind sighs, however, stirring the clouds like a witch's brew, and, when you look up once more, you cannot see the malevolent face grinning at you. Did you imagine it, then? Surely you must have. You are nervy. Well, of course you are. It is awfully late, and you cannot help but jump at the smallest of things. You hear ominous whispers in the undergrowth, feel cold fingers of fog brush your ankles with every single step you take. Every sound, no matter how subtle, makes your heart stammer in your chest, while every sigh of the breeze sounds like an omen. You do not want to keep going. You want to be rid of this night, to flee from it, curled up beneath your sheets, where the darkness and the fog and the ominous moonlight cannot reach you. But your promise to your sister prevents you from running. You cannot look back now. You cannot bear to disappoint her. The thought is enough to break your heart, which has never been made of stern stuff. Have you always been so weak, you wonder? With every step you take, when did you become so pathetic? Ah, you really are pitiful. Your love for your sister has turned you into a fool. But that is what love is, I'm afraid. It makes idiots out of us all, especially weak, spineless creatures like you, with no dreams or aspirations of your own. You wander through the churchyard, depressing the tall grass underfoot, hearing a soft, subtle crunch as it folds beneath your soles. You glance about this way and that, eyes narrowed, searching for a suitable target. You need to find an inauspicious grave, one which can be exhumed without drawing too much attention. The churchyard is a mismatched, motley collection of graves which span centuries, scattered across the grass like pieces of a brick. Whoa. Bric-a-brac in a second-hand furniture shop. I don't know what that is. Very interesting. You see large, ornate graves, which were obviously constructed for wealthy families, towering structures with stone angels atop them, their hands together in prayer. You see smaller, humbler graves fashioned into simple shapes, now a little weather-beaten, crosses and books spread open, inscriptions chiseled into the stone. You see graves which look small and simple, discolored stone lozenges, yet it is clear they are still well cared for. Some of the larger gravestones, those of the ostentatious angels, are bare of offerings. The angels' eyes overgrown with soft, springy moss. Some of the smaller gravestones, meanwhile, have clearly been well cared for. They have been cleaned recently, and there are small offerings lying before them. Flowers, little candles in jars, and in one case, several boiled sweets, all wrapped up in colored paper. There is something touching about these little offerings, something sweetly, softly domestic. The sight of the flowers, and especially the sweets, make you smile. Perhaps the world is not so very cold and cruel after all. But you cannot spend too much time pondering such things. You have not come here to examine these old graves, or to read the inscriptions carved into them. You are here to find a gift for your sister, a carcass that nobody will miss. A breakup rack seems to be old antiques that would make curios interesting. I'll be sure to look up a couple pictures of them later. The large ostentatious graves are no good, even the ones which have been left to go to rack and ruin. Somebody would notice if you disturbed them, and anyway, some of these larger graves are ringed with wrought iron to prevent any ne'er-do-wells like you from getting to the bodies. You give the smaller, well-cared-for graves a wide berth, too. You cannot bring yourself to dig up the graves of a person whose family still routinely comes to give them offerings. And anyway, it is inevitable somebody would notice if you begin to churn up all of the dirt, too. You bypass these graves and continue to walk on and on, until eventually you find the perfect target. There is one small, crumbling tombstone in the back of the churchyard. A tombstone so weathered and wasted the winds and rain must have wilted it down. This particular tombstone juts out from the ground like a broken tooth. Dark and decayed, several cracks run through this tombstone, and a few pieces of it have broken, craggy lumps of granite scattered through the tall grass. This sad, sorry tombstone is shunted near the back of the churchyard, obscured beneath the shade of a corpse of tangled elm trees. It is at this tombstone that you pause. You approach it, squinting in the dark, holding your lantern aloft. You would like to know who's entered here, beneath the earth, before you begin to dig, if only so you can apologize to them for disturbing them. If only so you can apologize to them for disturbing them. But the letters on the gravestone are almost illegible, incomprehensible. They have been worn away. That does not bode well if the corpse has been buried too long. That does not bode well. I need to slow down. I keep running immediately over periods. If the corpse has been buried too long, it might very well have turned into a skeleton. Your sister was not overly picky about what corpse she wanted, but she said she wished for it to have meat enough on its bones to cut into. You wondered whether you ought to double back on yourself to go for a new or fresher grave. But this would be your safest bet if you do not want to be discovered. And did your sister not tell you the grounds for this churchyard are special? The mud is silty, and there are chemical compounds in the soil which can ease the progress of decay. You do not know much about this yourself. Though you have spent many years aiding your sister, you have never been as apt at science as she, but you decide to trust her on this matter. You asked her to exhume a corpse, and that is what you will do. Your sister will have her pound of flesh one way or another. You can only hope there is at least a pound of flesh still attached to this corpse. who has been sleeping beneath the earth for God knows how long. You do not want to disturb this nameless sleeper, who has been underground so very long their name has worn off their headstone. But what choice do you have? If forced to pick between if forced to pick between a dissented dead body and your sister's happiness would win out every single time. That is how much you love her. You inhale the scent of dirt in your nostrils, of the bitter, acrid air. The sky overhead is dark and thick with clouds, and you think it might rain soon. It smells like rain. Part of you wishes it would, if only because it would put this night of madness to a close. You can hardly go disturbing dead bodies in the middle of a rainstorm. But another part of you hopes that the rain holds off, for an hour or so at least, so you can complete your sister's request. You do not want to go back empty-handed. Fresh rain smell is honestly really nice. In the middle of a graveyard, I'm not exactly too sure. You are doing this for her. This has always been for her. So you set your lamp to one side. You retrieve your shovel, which is lying in your barrow, tall and straight and seemingly innocuous. Then you press its sharp tip into the dirt and begin to dig. You dig and you dig and you dig, the silvery tip of the shovel slicing through the earth, and as you dig, you start to ponder. You feel somewhat guilty for disturbing someone else's labor, overriding it with your own clumsy, inelegant scrabbling. This whole affair feels disrespectful, not just in regards to the dead, who have been slumbering peacefully beneath the ground, but towards the sexton who must have buried these bodies in the first place. You are sure the sexton took a lot of time to inter this body beneath the earth, in the darkness, but you are undoing it all. There is something disrespectful about it all. This act of vandalism makes you shudder, but still, you keep going. You dig, and you dig, and you dig, though your arms begin to ache from the strain of it, though even more sweat begins to bead upon your brow. It is not easy work. You're unaccustomed to physical labor, and every single arch of the shovel through the dark air makes your arms ache. Technically, it is archaeology. It's just that you're digging up corpses that have died a lot more recently. Your fingers tense around the handle of the shovel, taut, and your breath escapes from between your lips in pained hisses. The more you dig, the more it hurts. The strain on your body only continues to get stronger, the pressure almost unbearable. But bear it you do. You have no other choice. You work, and you work, and you work over and over, until eventually the silver head of your shovel hits something hard. Not a stone or a pebble, but something flat and smooth. Is that the coffin? You dig all the more, frenzied like a dog, until at long last you are able to uncover your prize. It is indeed a coffin, a roughly hewn wooden thing, which has caved in from the pressure of all the dirt resting atop it. You had worried that you might need to fuss with the screws in the coffin in an attempt to pry them out, but you were in luck. You can already see the corpse interred within, glimpses of it at least. You just need to clear away the large splinters of broken wood. Then you can finally free your prize, and you won't need to worry about the nails. Simple. Well, it sounds simple when you say it like that, but nothing about this enterprise has been. You do not relish the thought of jumping down into the hole you have dug, 7 feet deep, then prizing open the lid of the worm-eaten coffin. But what choice do you have? You have already come this far, have exposed your prize before your roving gaze. You can hardly back out now. You draw in a deep breath, trying to steady yourself. Then, in the darkness, you descend. You let yourself into the hole you have dug with a dull thud, scattering clods of dirt in the process. The soles of your shoes press against the shattered lid of the coffin, which ruptures beneath your weight, groaning as if in pain. The sound of the splintering coffin fills the churchyard, a low, pained cry, like an animal in distress. For a few moments, you stand there frozen, your blood ice cold with fear, but nobody comes to apprehend you. There's nobody to witness you in this appalling, arcane act. There is just you and the stars and the moon. Perhaps the moon can see you from above the veil of clouds which cover it. Perhaps it knows what you are doing, a large staring eye, but if it does, it passes no judgment. It cannot speak, after all. The churchyard is eerily quiet, in fact, as you set about your macabre misdeeds. You prise open the lid of the coffin, scrabbling with your fingertips, the beds of your nails dark with dirt. It takes no shortage of filing. You are not the fittest of young ladies, but you are able to make progress. Slowly you unveil your prize from the darkened depths of its coffin, the flesh still there, but sloughing from the bones, the face sunken, and the eyes reduced to putrid jelly within their staring sockets. Ugh. The smell is overwhelming, trapped in its coffin beneath the ground for God you know not how long. The stink of it rushes. Water break. Hang on. I'm reading too much too fast. I'm really glad I brought all this water to read for reading. Trapped in its coffin beneath the ground for God you know not how long. The stink of it rushes forwards to greet you, just like a tin of pilchards open after 5 years spent in the sunlight. Pilchards. The stench is intense and oppressive. So much so you had hardly the words for it. You don't know how you would describe this part of the grave robbing experience to anybody. But it is unlikely you will need to describe this to anybody save your sister. Why would you tell anybody of this? You would serve only to incriminate yourself. Not blood on your hands, but dirt. God, there's so much dirt. So much soil and silt and mud and sludge and slime. It coats your hands, stains your skirts. You feel sick and oh so achy, weary all the way down to your bones and the marrow which lies within them. But you are not finished yet. Now you need to remove the exposed body from its hull. You need to extract it from the cavity you have created, then convey it to safety? Are you taking this body to safety? It seems unlikely, given your sister's designs upon it. You know, based on how eagerly she disassembles things, that she will not be gentle to this corpse. She will take it apart, piece by piece, to see how it all fits together, and, based on her mood, she might not put it back together. Your sister always has been mercurial. A woman who will run electric currents through the cranium of an elderly tortoise out of scientific interest is not to be trusted with a dead body. But you have come this far, and once again, you did promise your sister. You will get your sister her flesh, raw and rotting, exuding the stink of the grave. How she treats it is of no concern to you. Nothing else matters, save her happiness. You are able to haul the corpse out of the hole in the ground, though how you manage it you are not quite sure, and you deposit it rather gracelessly in your barrow. The corpse is in surprisingly good shape, given it has been buried for such a long time, but it is brittle too, the bones fragile, like dried kindling. You drop it into the barrow with a bit too much force, and there is an unpleasant crack as the back of its head hits the barrow's rim, a snap as the right hand catches beneath its body. You would not be surprised if you had broken a few bones. You always have been clumsy, as poor Safi will attest. But at least you do not put your own But at least you do not put out your own companion's eyes. That might be quite the difficult task, given its eyes have more or less melted. A dark brown fluid slopping around inside the sockets as if it were an oyster shell. You shudder. During your attempts to haul the corpse upwards, it begins to rain. Now these icy droplets drum on you, your scalp, shoulders, and down the back of your dress. When you glance back, you see the hole you have dug is in awful state. It's swimming with water, and the mud has turned red in the moon's light, silty and squelching. You do not fancy going back to that hole you made, to fill it up anew, but you must. You have no choice. You cannot let anybody know that you are here. If anybody were to see the gaping, open hole left behind, you would know what you will they will know what you have done, and that would defeat the point of targeting this grave in the first place. You need to think more. Use your head. This is why your sister was admitted to university, not you. Think, Caroline. You approach the grave that you have dug, the deep, rectangular hole gaping in the damp, wet earth, and, as you do, you wonder whether this was what you really desired. Did you make a mistake somewhere along the line? Certainly, you never dreamed of digging a hole in the dirt late at night for your sister's benefit and smearing yourself with soil in the bargain. You never dreamed that supporting your sister would be such a dangerous, degrading affair. You never realized how difficult it would be. Perhaps you did not want to. You wanted to believe that, if you served your sister willingly, she would be so gracious enough to see you as an equal. But is that really true? How can she see you as an equal when she has you running errands like this for her? Does that not prove she does not respect you? These thoughts swirl about in your head, dark and sinister, just like the soil you shoveled back into the hole your pilfered corpse once called home. You heap the earth into the hole while the rain falls around you, so cold you hiss from it. The ground is horribly muddy, wet and unstable, and you almost fall forwards on several occasions. Once you drop your shovel, your heart beating wildly, you fear you will be pitched head first in your half-full hole into the dirt and the darkness. But you were able to right yourself just in time, before the worst can happen. You sigh with relief upon gaining your bearings, wiping your sweaty brow with the back of your dirty arm. But now is no time to celebrate. You just dug up a corpse, and it is waiting for you, now, in a wheelbarrow. You have committed a vile act, wicked and profane, but you did it for love. You did it for your sister. You did it to make her smile. And, as you pat the last of the dirt down on the grave you once exhumed, you find yourself wondering. Maybe the rain is God's way of saying He forgives you for your sin. Maybe the rain means to cleanse of your crime. Maybe the rain means to cleanse you of your crimes, to purify you from the outside in. Maybe there is still hope for you after all, child of God, who strayed from the path so readily. Salvation is ahead. You just need to reach out and grasp it. That is what you tell yourself. But the only thing you grasp are the handles of your barrow, where your putrefied burden awaits. Putrefying burden awaits. You exit the graveyard, gripping your burrow all the while. Your shoes slap against the cobblestone, and as they do, you try to reassure yourself that you did nothing wrong, that you were only trying to aid your sister. It will all be alright. You have struggled too much tonight for it not to be fine. You continue to tell yourself this, repeating it like a mantra as you wend your way through the streets with your gruesome package. Typically, it would not take much longer than 10 minutes for you to reach your home from the churchyard, but with your burden, the barrow and the body within it, it takes at least thrice that. You have to walk slowly, taking care as you navigate the cobblestone not to be seen. Every single sound makes you start. The laughter of distant drunken revelers enough to make your heart seize up in your chest. You cannot risk anybody seeing you. Your hands stained with dirt to the elbows and the gruesome bundle which you are transporting. It takes a small eternity. Every single noise makes you startle, but eventually you reach your destination. You arrive back home. You let yourself in gratefully, the key clicking in the lock and almost collapse in the entrance. You inhale deeply, pressing one hand to your chest as you try to gather your bearings. You have always thought the air in your sister's atelier to be horribly stuffy, but you welcome it now. You are tired after all. You are tired after all of that walking and are sick of the smell of the outside, the stench of the dirt, the air, and the rain. You would like to draw yourself a bath, then dress your bed, and sleep the rest of the night away. The ensuing day, too. But you have your new companion to worry about, and you cannot simply leave them in the entrance. Unwillingly, you look back at your guest. You take in its, you don't know if it's a man or woman, atrophied face, its bruised, broken hands, the motleyed skin which sloughs like strips of torn linen from its chest. You suppress a shudder, your fingers tensing, nails sinking into your palms. Somehow the corpse looks even worse in the lights of your sister's atelier. You did not notice before in the dark how malted its skin was, purple-green, like the fuzz of an overripe peach. You did not realize how sunken its cheeks, how matted its hair, how putrid its eyes, or remains of them. But this is what your sister wanted. This is what she asked for, and you have delivered. Now, you need only present the fruits of your hard work to your sister. You force yourself to approach the corpse resting in a barrow, though the smell is truly atrocious, and seize its handles anew. Then, you wheel the barrow further into your atelier, into your inner sanctum. You take it to the study where you and your sister often work, poring at your respective desks surrounded by books. But to your disappointment, though not necessarily your surprise, your sister is not awake to greet your new guest. She has worn herself out again and has fallen asleep at her desk. Her cheek pressed against her inner arm, her fair eyelashes matted. Her face is slightly flushed in slumber, though only slightly, and her chest rises and falls in sleep. You observe her for a few moments, gripping the handles of the barrow, and, as you do, you are struck with a sudden unexpected anger. What is she doing sleeping? How can she slumber like this, without a care in the world, when she has been making you do all of her dirty work? The least she can do is thank you for digging up the corpse like a dog, the ungrateful. But you take another look at your sister, so small and defenseless in her slumber, and your complaints die in your throat. You cannot even begin to bring yourself to utter them. Indeed, you feel guilty for even thinking them. You cannot hurl such abuse at your sister, You love her, after all. You must love her. If you do not, then why did you dig up this corpse to begin with? Stupid. You chastise yourself, your eyelids squeezing shut. You are so stupid. Well, never matter. You will simply leave the barrel here, then, by your sister's side. She will see the corpse when she awakens, and she will know instinctively what it means. She will know what you have done for her, and maybe then she will understand how you truly feel about her. Right now, that is the only hope you have to cling to. Does desecration of a corpse count as a trigger warning? That is a genuine question, by the way. You awake the following morning to an unpleasant smell, one of iron. Your eyelids flutter open, disturbed by the unusual smell, thick and heavy and uncomfortably cloying. The back of your head, meanwhile, throbs. You feel faintly sick, but for a few moments you cannot remember why. You lie on your bed, wondering why you feel exhausted, why your limbs are aching so awfully. But it soon comes back to you in a horrible rush. You can still remember digging up that body. You wince as nausea ripples through you, thick and fast. Your stomach roils as you remember the cloying smell of soil and rotting flesh, the stink of the grave, and you almost vomit. Almost, but not quite. Vomiting now would be impractical. It would only make a mess that you would have to clean up later. It is better not to bother, and there are many other things you could be doing. You stink. You want a bath, and badly. But the pervasive smell of iron is so intense it banishes all rational thought. What is that smell? You have a vague idea, of course. But curiosity, as always, spurs you onwards. You rise to your feet, though your legs feel weak, ready to give up beneath the weight of your body, then exit your room. Then you approach your sister's makeshift laboratory, the space which once was the living room, which she has co-opted for experiments. It is from here, as you expected, that the unpleasant stench is the strongest. Not sure, damn. You have an idea of what you might see long before you open a door, before you can confront the truth. I'm curious why the smell is iron. But you still gasp at what you see and what you knew you would see. Your sister is standing by a mortuary slab, purchased at an auction from an abandoned hospital. A large, grim piece of furniture stained rust red from years of use. In one hand, your sister holds a scalpel. On her face, meanwhile, is a look of intense concentration. She is poring over the corpse you liberated from the churchyard last night, exhumed from their grave, only to be split apart from neck to crotch. The corpse looks almost bloated in the dim lights of your sister's makeshift laboratory. Its face has turned purple, though perhaps it was always purple. You do not know. Its head hangs loosely, eyes like melted wax, innards escaping from the cavernous hole in its stomach. Outwards now, you think, with an appropriate peal of anxious laughter. Oh, it's you. Don't startle me like that. It is your laughter, you think, which rouses your sister's attention. She was so focused upon the corpse on the table, she must not have heard your approaching footsteps, the sound of the opening door. She does not hear your panicked giggle, however, and upon hearing it, she does hear your panicked giggle, however, and upon hearing it, she frowns. Would you shut the door, Kara? You're going to let in the cold air. This is such a banal thing to say in the face of what she is doing that it seems almost ludicrous. Once again, you have to suppress the urge to giggle. You bite the inside of your cheek, feeling fevered. Are you going insane, or is this because of the rain last night? And apologize. You shut the door behind you, though you do not much want to. You do not want to trap yourself inside this room with a moldering corpse, and ask your sister what she means to do. I thought it would be obvious. I am dissecting the specimen you brought me. Well, yes, you can see that, but why? I have already told you why. It's for science. I need to take it apart first, if I'm to learn how to put it back together. Just like your father's snuff box, you remember? And the carriage clock. Yes, you say, your voice hesitant. You understand that, but didn't she break your father's carriage clock? Some sacrifices must be made for the sake of progress. Not that this is any great sacrifice. They were already dead. You know that, but don't worry, I'm not doing this because I derive any sadistic pleasure from cutting open corpses. I'm doing this to help people. Remember what my aim is, Carol. Yes, you know, she wants to ensure that nobody has to suffer the same fate as her mother, who died slowly and painfully from consumption. She wants to save people. Yes, that's right. This is for the greater good, you see. I want to save people. But if I'm to do that, I need to understand how people work. Medical students do much the same thing. I am only following in their footsteps. If I wish to put people back together, I first need to take them apart. That's all. Your sister says this in a very matter-of-fact manner, as though it is common sense, and perhaps, to her, it is. You can see the logic in it too. You know there is no malice in your sister's actions, only an intellectual curiosity and a genuine desire to do good. But for all of her lofty claims of wishing to save people, you wish she did not need to do so. She did not need to do it in so gruesome a manner. That corpse really does stink. Now, are you going to keep standing there? Your sister says, inclining her head. Or will you help me? Help you, you ask, somewhat hesitant, your gorge rising. How can you do that? Surely they should not want you to pick up the scalpel and... Oh no, I would not ask you to go that far, but you might fetch me a bucket. I need something to put the organs in. Right, of course, that makes sense. Your sister would not ask you to cut open a body. Of course, she would never do something so wicked, but exhuming one from a graveyard? Fetching a bucket of all things, so she might use it to contain its removed organs? Your sister would ask you to do that, and more. You have never before thought this of your sister, but now you're beginning to wonder. Just how shameless is she? You stand with your sister in a makeshift laboratory for some 2 hours further, her dutiful assistant to the end. You fetch her containers for the various organs, clean her equipment, and listen to her postulations as she cuts and slices and saws at bones. You try to endure it as best you can, the smell of spilled blood, of decaying, decomposing flesh, but it weighs upon you. The stink of it brings tears to your eyes, and you have to swallow down the earth to vomit on numerous occasions. Eventually, however, your sister finishes with this macabre art project of hers, and once she finishes, you soon excuse yourself. You retreat outside, desperate to feel the fresh air upon your cheeks, to inhale the scent of the earth and the air, rather than the stink of a carrion corpse. You press a hand to your mouth, trying to quell the nausea that continues to roil inside you. Tightly, you close your eyes. You try to inhale, slowly, deliberately, but it is all for nothing. Your stomach lurches. Then you bend and eject the contents of your stomach onto the grass. All frothy, yellow-brown bile. Weakly you groan. You feel a little better after vomiting, but as if all of your energy has voided your body with your last meal. You are exhausted. All the physical activity from the night prior is catching up to you, and scored from inside out, you no longer have the strength to stand. You glance back at your sister's atelier and frown. You're unsure whether you wish to go back indoors once more, to brave the stink of the grave. But what other choice do you have? You are no dog, and you are hardly going to sleep outside. Sharply you inhale, hoping to take the crisp outdoors air with you. Then you step foot inside your home once more, a place which was once your home, at least. But now, bathed in the stink of entrails, it no longer feels like it. Your head spins. You feel like an unwelcome intruder, as though you are trespassing in somebody else's home. You fear that you no longer belong here. But there is nowhere else for you to go. You return to your little used bedroom, which you rarely sleep in, feeling utterly drained, devoid of energy. Then you collapse onto the bed, sliding sideways like a marionette whose strings have been cut. You hit the mattress, which sinks beneath your weight. Your eyelids fall shut. Then, buoyed by a smell of corpses which continues to fill your home, you sleep. You surrender yourself to dreams, where nothing can hurt you, where nothing can go wrong. You sleep, and you sleep, and you sleep. This is not where I expected a choice to be. But eventually you awake. It is inevitable that you would, for nobody can sleep forever, however much you wish for it, however much you might will it. Your eyelids flutter open inevitably, inextricably. You expect upon waking that you'll find yourself in your room once more, curled on your side beneath your sheets, your loose hair sprawled across the pillow. But your expectations go unanswered. You soon find upon opening your eyes that you are not in your room, and neither are you laying on your bed. You are lying down, yes, but on your back, the curve of your spine pressed against something cold, hard, and unforgiving. Your arms, meanwhile, have been held at your sides, fixed in place by cold, unmoving steel. You feel these manacles brushing against your inner arm almost intimately, and you hiss from the shock of it. The steel saps what little warmth your body still possesses, and you shiver. Where in the world are you? You look about uneasily, trying to plumb the shadows with your wide and anxious eyes. The part of you already knows, of course, what is going to happen. You can tell by the smell alone, even if you cannot tell by your surroundings. You are in your sister's operating theater. You are lying upon the mortuary slab purchased second-hand from that old hospital. The slab which has always made you shudder, owing to the rust red splattered over its unassuming surface. You have seen your sister perform several operations upon this slab before, mostly of cats and dogs, though yesterday's cadaver was a new development, but you have always watched from a distance. You have stood by your sister dutifully, disinfecting her equipment and wiping her brow with sweat. You stood afar and you let her work, and you dreamed of the day when her research would be rewarded, when she would be hailed as some sort of visionary genius. You dream of the day when the world would regard your sister as you do. But now you fear you will never see that happen. It is with wide eyes that you glance about, searching for something, anything, lurking in the shadows. And as you do, you spy a diminutive figure, a flash of silver. Naturally, it is your sister. Her expression is that of scientific curiosity. It's the same expression she wears when observing any of her specimens. The pickled animal foetuses and their innards suspended inside glass jars. In her right hand, meanwhile, she grips something sharp. Her scalpel. You know what this means before she approaches, before she can utter so much as a single word, but still you feel compelled to address her. What in the world is she doing? What is going on? You ask her these questions and more, the syllables catching in your throat, chafing at it, just like the iron restraints around your wrist. You ask her what she means to do with you, lying as you are in this cold mortuary slab, though you already know what she is plotting. You have already seen what she is capable of. You know full well what she means to do, but you still ask regardless. You cannot help but hope. I suppose that is part of being a person, something which makes us intrinsically human. We cannot help but wish for the best, even when our circumstances are decidedly dismal. But I am forgetting myself. I ought not interject into this story. It is not mine to tell, not right now at least. You look at your sister, your pale face taut, but full of hope, full of desperate, frenetic pleas for mercy. I apologize, but I had a revelation. Cutting into that corpse made me realize something. One body is not enough. I need much, much more if I'm going to complete my research properly. Water. One sec. I'm almost completely empty on this glass, too. But your hopes soon die the moment your sister utters these fateful words. They are words which are familiar to you, words your sister has said many times before. It is not enough. For her, it is never enough. Her appetite for learning is an intense, insatiable thing, voracious. It exists within her like a black hole, dark and deadly, sucking in everything which dares approach too close. You should have known, and perhaps deep down, part of you did know, that one corpse would never be able to satisfy her. I am not doing this, your sister continues, her voice wavering ever so slightly, because I have any vendetta against you. On the contrary, I love you. You are my dearest friend, Carol. You are more precious to me than anybody else in all the world. But I loved my mother too. I had to watch as she suffered. She died slowly, agonizingly, and I did not want that to happen to anybody else. I want to save her and all people like her. So I need to gather more data. I need to conduct even more experiments. Slicing open a corpse was instructive, but it did not answer all of my questions. I need to operate on somebody who is still alive, somebody whose blood still runs through their veins. I need to do this for the sake of my research. That is all. I hope there are no hard feelings. No hard feelings? You stare up at your sister, stunned into silence by the weight of her words. How can there be no hard feelings? She has you chained to her stained operating table. She means to slice you open. You cannot help but have hard feelings. You love her, yes, you adore her more than anybody in the world. But that is why it hurts so much. Haven't you done everything she ever asked for? Haven't you been the best sister she could ever hope for? The best assistant? Of course you have. You have answered to my every wish and whim, no matter how selfish. And I know they have been selfish. You have been better to me than I deserve. Then why, you ask her, your voice entreating, are you doing this? Why go this far? I already told you. It is for science. We must all make sacrifices in the name of progress. That is how we can advance. But why sacrifice you? If she must operate on a person who lives, why choose the person she supposedly loves the most? Why not choose somebody at random, one of the students at the university which she never attends? Why, you ask? Your sister replies, her expression ponderous. There's a pause, and then, well, that would not be a proper sacrifice. I do not love the students at the university. They mean nothing to me. Not like you, Kara. You are my precious sister. You are the one who has always taken care of me. You are the one that I love. So it stands to reason that you will be the biggest sacrifice of all. I love you more than anybody, so you are the one I must give up if I am to make any progress. That is simply how it is. What? But that makes no sense, you cry, thrashing against your restraints. Not that it does you any good, of course. They are made of hard, immovable steel, and they do not budge. You squirm, but succeed only in making the metal bite into your wrist. It hurts. But you fancy the scalpel held in your sister's hand will hurt even more when she slides it beneath your skin. You stare at her, eyes wide, begging for mercy, for relief, for even a little bit of sympathy. But, though your sister looks pained, she does not relent. She looks down at you, then says, I'm sorry, Carol. I know this must be hard for you. You think that is something of an understatement. But it is hard for me too. Please, try to understand. I'm not doing this for the sake of it. It is important if I'm to continue with my research. And you did say you would always support me. You promised. Ah, there it is. It would seem that your old promise, conducted on the banks of that river, have come back to haunt you. She is right, of course. You always did want to support her, but never did you imagine she would demand this of you. Yes, well, that is part of the problem, your sister says lightly. You have always been supremely unimaginative, Carol. That is why you have been content to call me your sister for all these years, is it not? What? You look at your sister blankly, your brow furrowed. What is she talking about? Well, this is only an assumption, your sister says, but I have always thought you looked at me in a way which sisters oughtn't. Oh, so she noticed how you have always regarded her, didn't she? Well, of course she did. Your sister is a scientist. Her observational powers are second to none. You used to believe that she had an eye only for her experiments, and that she was wholly unconcerned with other people's feelings. But perhaps you were mistaken. Even now, your sister finds new ways to surprise you. And that is saying something, given she has secured you to a mortuary slab. You look at your sister with anxious eyes, your face flushed, your heart flutters in your chest, but still, you ask her what she means. There is nothing suspect about your feelings for her. How can there be? You are sisters after all, and we are not related, your sister says softly, by blood. We are not sisters, no matter how much you wish it to be so, and I believe your feelings for me have always been more intimate than that. I plead the fifth. I see it sometimes in the way your gaze lingers on me. I hear it too in your voice and the things that you say to me. I believe you care for me more intensely than you would like to admit. But such feelings can be scary, your sister continues, now leaning in to caress your cheek. And you have always been weak, Kara. Your fear of what other people think. You cannot stand the thought of being scorned. You knew that your feelings for me were unacceptable, so you thought it better to reframe them. And referring to me as your sister, you made your feelings something irreproachable, something devoid of judgment. You tried to put your feelings for me inside a box, so you need never examine them too carefully. But I am a scientist, you know, and I cannot help but poke around at things I oughtn't. I do not like leaving things so unambiguous. We are not sisters. Let's go. But perhaps we are something even closer. Even closer? She might be right. You admit begrudgingly. But what could be even closer than sisters? I can think of a few things. You can hardly imagine it. You feel like you oughtn't try to imagine it for fear it might be something profane. But you are proving my point, your sister rejoins. Her expression soft, her smile sweet. You cannot imagine much of anything, Kara, which is probably why you are so scared. So let me explain what will happen next. You may die at my hands, but I will revive you. Then we can be together forever. I promise. It is not a very reassuring promise. You tell her as much, and she frowns. Her lips purse in a suggestion of into a suggestion of a pout. Are you telling me that you doubt my science? Oh no, you hurry to say, afraid, though, that these might very well be your last moments, that you've upset her, offended her, your sister, who is not your sister, but whom you love more than anybody in the world. She could cut you open and you would still adore her. Closer than sisters. You cannot help yourself. Even if she's stuck. Sorry, I think I was drooling a little. Even if she stuck her scalpel inside you, Only your innards would ooze out. None of your love for her would escape your body. Your feelings for her have penetrated you far too deeply, and now your love has become a core part of your personality. Perhaps she is right about you. Perhaps you really do love her more than a sister. Afraid that your feelings were unnatural, you tried to mask them with a veneer of respectability. Two women sharing a bed may be wrong, but two sisters? Why? There can be nothing purer than that. You told yourself your feelings were of a familial nature, so you did not need to probe them too much, and yet... Good. I am glad. I knew I could always trust you until the end. Your sister says with a small smile. You always have understood me better than anybody else. That is why I love you so much. My beloved Caroline. It is with this remark, sweeter than anything she has ever before uttered, that your sister dips her head. Her lips find yours, soft and sweet. As, in the same moment, she thrusts her right hand, the one which grips her scalpel still. Huh. Hang on, I need water. Oh boy. Purely for reading purposes. You gasp, and she penetrates your parted lips with your tongue, just as she penetrates your flank with the sharpened blade of her scalpel. You feel her invading you on both fronts, the blade sharp and inorganic, her tongue soft and fleshy. If you wished, you could bite down upon her tongue. You could sink your teeth into it, could sever it, perhaps the tip, and make her draw back. Her mouth would fill with blood, and perhaps her eyes will fill with tears. She would curse you, or would she? Perhaps she would simply sob. You have only seen her cry once before, shortly after her mother's death, but she has not sobbed since. She had no need for tears, for she knew you would always wipe them away. You thought that you needed her, but perhaps she needed you too. You were a pillar of support upon which she leaned, a constant she clung to. You both needed one another. Perhaps it is no wonder that, in the end, both of you would go toppling. Your foundations were not secure enough, and yet, the scalpel in your side hurts, but you cannot bring yourself to hate her. Even now you love her. You do not want to push her away. In fact, you almost welcome the invasive metal in your side. It is proof, if nothing else, that she needs you, that she wants you. You will submit then to this act of violation, for your love is so deep it transforms it, not into something invasive, but into something intimate. You will let your sister have her way with you, as you always have. We love double entendres. You will let her take you apart, just as she did your father's old carriage clock. Though you doubt she, even in her infinite genius, will be able to put you back together again. You're unsure as she digs her knife into you, whether you want her to. Her kiss might be a salve, but it can only offer you so much relief. Your fingers started to feel horribly, unnaturally cold. Your heartbeat, meanwhile, begins to slow. You succumb, bit by bit, to your own inevitable end, to the inevitability of the scalpel sliding deep and quick into your flesh, tearing it away from your bones. You let yourself drift, secure to the rust-red operating table as the scholar, your beloved sister, limps over you. A look of concentration on her face so immense, you feel almost flattered she cares so much. You wish, as you lie there, she had looked at you like this before, that she had seen fit to offer you even a crumb of attention like this in the past. But no, you think, as you succumb to the blade of your sister's scalpel, this is not a past you wish to recall. This is not a past you wish to reclaim. You do not see any other paths available to you as you drifted, any other lives which might be more satisfactory. Why don't you reach out and see, quickly now, while you still can? Why don't you see who else you might have been, what else you might become? So, don't worry, that's probably also where... Don't worry, the stream's wrapping up anyway, so feel perfectly fine going to get your rest. This was very fun. But yeah, no, that was almost like, what, 3 hours? That was almost 3 hours. Wow. Yeah, no, I'm gonna do the same thing that I did with It Gets So Lonely here and probably turn the other routes into streams too. Because that took 3 hours. Damn, I didn't expect that to be so long. Granted, I was reading it all out loud, so that's probably why. But no, that was... Oh, that was good. No notes. No notes. Ebi-Hime still got it. There's only one gallery image? Interesting. No notes. No notes. Yeah, no, I will do the other routes as their own thing. As their own streams, because if they're gonna take like about 3 hours, then that's pretty good. It's pretty good. But yes, again, the link for the game is in my Discord, which you can find down below. You can also, if you are watching the VOD of this, which will be uploaded to YouTube, you can find the link to not only this, but also the rest of the games from the Toxic Yuri Gamejam in the YouTube description. So yeah, no, this is very self-indulgent. But no, this is what I signed up for, and this is a lot of fun. And that was only one route. That was only one route. I find it very funny, before I go, I find it very funny that the first route that I did for It Gets So Lonely Here was the Gravedigger route. And then the first route I did for this one has me digging up corpses. So I guess I'm just inexplicably tied to toxic Yuri that is somehow related to graves. Yeah, no, this was a lot of fun. I very much look forward to reading the rest of these. I will make sure that I have a lot of water because wow, that was a lot of reading. But no, that was so much fun. And I can't wait to look more into the maid next time. So yeah, thank you for spending time with me. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. Even if I was a little bit unbecoming at certain points. But yeah, again, check out the Toxic Yuri VN Gamejam if anything from this seemed and like anything up your alley. Maybe you'll find something interesting. Maybe you'll find something that maybe I made. Who knows? But yes, thank you for spending time with me. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I hope you have a wonderful morning, noon, or night, no matter when you're watching this. And be sure to take care of yourselves. So, yeah. Jane.